My name is Zach Meyer, and I'm co-hosting this edition of Better Informed Housing. Better Informed Housing Corporation has devoted its energy to passionately educating and informing communities on their real estate rights. Many of these communities are politically underrepresented members of our city. The city of Chicago currently has over 100,000 vacant properties. These vacant properties attract crime, invite danger, drive down neighborhood property values, and push out local communities that have existed there for years. Better Informed Housing seeks to change that. You can check out our website here at betterinformed.org. We're happy to hear from you, and if you have any questions from after tonight's show, please write us or call us at any time. We're happy to hear from you. Our topic here tonight is consumer protection on privacy and financial issues. And I'm here tonight with Carl Dreyer from EV Haas, an attorney with over a decade of experience, who's here to discuss with us any of the issues that you can take when it comes to being financially safe and that'll affect your financial and personal welfare. Carl,
Yes.
the first question I have tonight is regarding one of the biggest financial purchases you could ever make, wire fraud. When buying a home, what should I be on the lookout for, and what issues can possibly affect it?
Well, since the purchase or sale of a house is one of the biggest financial transactions that most people will go through in their lives, it's very important to be aware that often there are people out there looking to either hack into your system to get your money, or they're going to try and send you some type of information for you to give over your money, whether it be by mail,
Okay.
email. So, of course, it's very important to make sure that you work with a lawyer you can trust, as well as a real estate agent that you can trust, and that you make sure to investigate the title company that you'll be using
Awesome.
in the transaction.
Awesome. My next question is is it possible when making a large real estate contract that all the information should be on the financial documents itself? Will I have to bring any money to that real estate closing when I'm finally going to get the deed? Or is there going to be any signs of fraud maybe at that closing itself?
Well, you want to make sure that all the information regarding the closing of your real estate is going to be included, and of course, you need to make sure that you work closely with your real estate agent and attorney to ensure that everything is there. In terms of bringing money to the closing, well, the title company is really there
Okay.
to make sure that they're holding your money, and they're going to ensure that everyone who is supposed to get their money gets their money.
Absolutely.
And only in a case where there may be some taxes that haven't been paid yet, you might have to come to the table with your checkbook. But in most cases,
Okay.
you don't need to bring money with you.
Perfect. So it's only going to be a small amount of money that I might need. I'm not going to. That's what the mortgage is for,
Yes.
to pay for it. Okay. Good to know. Next question I have is when entering into a financial transaction for real estate, especially I keep hearing of these short sales, I'm going to have to submit a lot of financial information to the lender. It's going to have my social security number, my birth date, my bank account information, home address, phone number, email, basically everything that someone could use to steal your identity, essentially. How can I protect myself against all these documents getting released into the public?
Well, the first thing you need to make sure about is that the private information on all of this is redacted. So
Okay.
that means that there's either a software that the bank has to erase certain information, like your personal checking account or your savings account and your social security number, or that you work with your attorney to make sure that their office redacts the information before it's even sent out
Okay.
to the bank.
Okay. Let's say if it goes wrong. Let's say if I haven't started with my attorney yet and I see my social security number is displayed on a file document already. What can be done to fix that?
Well, you can hire an attorney to get them to file a motion to redact those documents,
Okay.
or to have the documents sealed,
Okay.
so that will require that the financial institutions do not disclose your information to the public, because if they do, then there'll be repercussions, they'll be fined, and the court system will fine them. And of course, it's definitely happened in the past.
Okay.
And can certainly happen again.
Okay. Perfect. I always wondered how they can fix that, especially. What can I do on my own, or what should I ask my lawyer, if for all the personal information that's getting transmitted internally in emails, are the financial institutions encrypting it in any way? Are they taking additional steps to safeguard personal information about me?
Yes, actually today banks are using more and more methods where you're required to put in certain codes or answer certain questions that only you know the answer to on their websites, instead of just receiving an email.
Okay.
Or they'll send you an email that is encrypted, and the only way to get the information is to separately receive another email where you have to put a code in order to get access to what's in the email or what's attached to the email.
Okay.
And so that helps protect you from hackers getting in and just merely sending you a request to wire information to a certain location or number.
Perfect. Another question I've had is I have a lot going on in my life, but should I necessarily go to the real estate closing itself? I know that in Illinois they require you to have an attorney for that. So since I have an attorney, do I need to even go to the real estate closing?
It's important that you do go.
Okay.
Because at the closing, there can always be issues that arise that are best taken care of while you're there with your attorney and your agent. Really, in terms of getting a power of attorney, that's something that really should be reserved for instances where you might get sick.
Okay.
And can't attend, or if you have some kind of business trip, for example, that you can't miss because your job depends on it.
Yeah.
So in most cases, it's best to be there and be able to see what happens and understand every aspect of it, because that's what your attorney is there to do, is to explain everything to you.
Perfect. So it's always best to go just to make sure, for my own edification, kind of this is exactly what's being done, this is what's being signed, and to really familiarize myself with the documents for the most important purchase that someone's likely to make.
Right, and not only that, but it will help protect you against fraud, because you know exactly what's occurring.
Just wanted to let you know, just to our viewers, please call in to the number listed on your screen itself. If you have any questions, you can also check out our website at betterinformedhousingcorporation.org. We're happy to take your questions and email and work with members of our Chicagoland community. Now, hacking can also be done, I heard, by different methods. I can pose essentially as, let's say you're Carl Dreyer. I can create another email address to pose as you. What else should borrowers be on the lookout for when it comes to kind of modern ways of hacking when it comes to their financial information, especially when it comes to real estate?
Well, one of the best things you can do if you're not sure about an email that you receive is to just get on the phone.
Okay.
And call your agent, call your attorney, and say, hey, I just received this. And if they say, well, I don't know what you're talking about, then you know that there's trouble there.
So really go the old-fashioned route of, as much as we've gotten in touch with our electronic and digital side, it never hurts to call.
Right.
Or go down and visit your lawyer itself to say, hey, I'm a little bit suspicious of what I just received.
Right.
Or is this really you? That's kind of the best way to fight that.
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. Next question I have is, I know some of the programs that recently were helping borrowers, uh, essentially with financial forms of loss mitigation, started to sundown over the past year. I've heard of cases that people, like we were just talking about, would pose as the government or the kind of like a short sale savior institution. What can individuals do to stop this and to make sure it doesn't happen to them?
Well, the first thing you need to do is if you're being solicited by what appears to be a government agency, make sure that in the website or email there's a .gov and not a .com. A lot of times hackers or people who are trying to defraud you will have the name of the institution and a .com next to it. And if you don't catch that, then that means that you're going to be, caught in their web. Also, there's you should also make sure to follow up with your attorney if you're being approached by
Okay.
someone who claims to be a government agent and say, hey, do I really need to respond to this? And then you can have your attorney look into that to make sure that that's a legitimate inquiry that's being made.
So it's another set of second eyes, essentially, that are going to look at it and maybe they'll see that a logo's off, an email's off,
Right.
or maybe some of the scams that they've seen kind of pulled over on someone in the past. They can help guide someone through that.
Yeah, they're usually pretty tricky, but a lawyer should be able to catch some of the differences, especially if they're working on your matter, because they've seen these kinds of things before.
Okay, great. What can I do to protect my property when it comes to the title company itself? I know they hold a lot of the money. They act as an escrow agent. Should I trust them with my essentially cash? I know on next month's episode, we're having a guest from a title company on to discuss, but prior to that, kind of what's the best thing to look at when it comes to title insurance and fraud?
Well, the best thing to do is make sure that you find the best title insurance company that you can get, because you don't want to just find some fly by night kind of title company. You want to look in to the history of the title company, see who their underwriters are, and get an idea of whether or not this is a title company that you can trust, because you are essentially giving them a lot of money to hold for you until the date of the closing. So it's certainly important to do proper investigation into the title company.
Okay. So essentially, as much as we search for health insurance and all our other insurances, this is just as important, if not more, because it's your house. So you really need to do your due diligence and not just kind of let your attorney or agent guide you. You should really do some of the checkup yourself to see who they are.
Definitely.
Awesome. When a real estate contract is being entered into, what should I be on the lookout for? Should I try and learn as much about the buyer or the seller itself to be alerted for fraud? What things should I be on the lookout for to make sure I'm not going to run into any issues or problems associated with the property?
Well, you should definitely find out as much as you can about the buyer or seller, and make sure that they are involved with the transaction. One of the red flags is where you have a buyer or seller or whoever's on the other side not involved
Okay.
with the transaction, and that is certainly something that your lawyer would raise as well if they noticed that there was no involvement by them.
That's terrific. So essentially, the more you can learn about an individual, let's say if they're not maybe from that area and they're buying a home there, that might be a red flag.
Right.
Okay, great. I want to remind our viewers that if you want to reach out and to contact us, you can go to our website at betterinformed.org. We're located at 218 North Jefferson, Suite 103, Chicago, Illinois, 60661. We can be reached at neighbors@betterinformed.org, and we're happy to answer any of your questions itself. Please just give us a call. All right. What can I do here and now to protect my future interest in the property? So when the next eclipse essentially rolls around, I won't be blinded. Like if someone were to stare into it, what can I do for my heirs? Is it as simple as getting a will, or a trust, or a set of documents ready for them so they know what's going to happen to my home in the future? Also, as our parents start to age, what should we be on the lookout for when it comes to reverse mortgages?
Well, in terms of getting a will and trust, it's really important to make sure that if you want your property to be adequately divided up amongst your heirs, that you do get yourself a will so that it doesn't have to go through probate. Otherwise, your heirs are going to have to spend at least a year, maybe 2 or 3, in court having the judge decide who
Okay.
gets what. So that's very important to figure out.
Okay.
And, with reverse mortgages, those essentially have a balloon attached to them. So, everything suddenly becomes due. And of course, if you could put in writing, in a will or in a trust, as to what's going to occur with that, that will definitely save a lot of hassle that your heirs may have to deal with, because if they get the property and then they have to pay $80,000 on a reverse mortgage, then they're not going to be too happy with that.
Definitely would agree. Especially when you think, hey, I'm getting my mom's house that was in the will to me, but I noticed that some of the repairs came up over the years. 20,000 for shingles, 10,000 for a furnace. Where did that money come from? You definitely need to figure out kind of where. So it might be best to maybe help them out in the here and now, as opposed to kind of waiting for that future promise of for what could happen to their home.
Definitely. And a lawyer can definitely help you assess the best methods and options of either going with a will or a trust.
Okay, perfect. What would you suggest is kind of the best due diligence I can do as a buyer or a seller for a real estate transaction? Is it simply choosing a lawyer I can trust, maybe a friend, or should I kind of really seek out one who's more experienced? How should I maybe pick an agent? Kind of what have we learned from the show itself to ensure my financial interests and safety?
Well, one of the great things is we have social media today. So, you can go find yourself a qualified lawyer by going to websites like Avo and seeing what kind of experience lawyers have with real estate transactions. With respect to getting yourself a qualified agent, you can definitely, go onto social media and, you want to make sure that you get an agent and a lawyer that are experienced in this area and that you can trust. And it's very important to do the due diligence on your part to make sure that you have people that can make sure that you're not subject to any kind of fraud, and make sure that they'll do their due diligence to look out for you.
Perfect. So kind of essentially on this show tonight, we learned about wire fraud and that you should definitely make sure that you're working with a trusted financial institution who's not going to send the instructions just over email for her essentially hundreds of thousands of dollars of purchase, and that can be scammed or taken out. We learned that title insurance is a very important thing to get. You should shop around the market to make sure that you're choosing the best company to be underwritten by. We learned that if any of your personal information gets leaked, you should seek out a lawyer to redact it and make sure that all your information isn't going to be available to anyone in the public to request, and that essentially you should always just do your due diligence when it comes to the sale of your home, because it's one of the most important financial transactions, if not the number one financial transaction you'd make in your life. Once again, thanks for tuning in tonight. My name is Zach Meyer. We thank Carl Dreyer for appearing on tonight's show.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this August edition of Better Informed Housing. Please be sure to check out our website at betterinformed.org. And if you'd like to watch this show, you can do so on CanTV's YouTube page, or check out the Better Informed website after this show. Please feel free to email or call Better Informed .org with any questions you have relation to real estate or housing matters. We hope you have a great evening. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the September edition of Better Informed Housing. Have a good night.
Have a good night.